What is up? Welcome to Chosen Price Chats. Today I have someone that I am very proud to call my friend that I've never met in person, and this is the first time I'm actually talking to him, but we have Cody, Codecardjitsu on Instagram. How you doing this morning, man?
Hey man, I'm doing really great. I feel like a lot of this hobby is kind of like we have a lot of friends that we've never really met, and so it's always cool to be
Yeah,
able to talk to people like that. And yeah, it's the same, man. It's great to call you a friend. I'm excited to do this.
dude, yeah, absolutely. And it's 8:30 here. It's, a little past 6:30 there. And from what I understand, you've already been at work for an hour. What do you do? What is
Yeah, I actually I left my house at 4 this morning,
Oh my
which is
gosh.
not uncommon. But I do a lot of roadside service calls. But I'm a diesel mechanic. I own a small diesel repair business, which you probably are hearing trucks drive by now. I have a lot of trucks moving around the yard all the time. Um, but yeah, it's not a huge business by any means.
hmm
I've been in business for around 11 years now, and things are going well. And I'd
Wow.
like to keep it going that way. So
Dude, that's awesome. 11 years. That is
yeah.
that's pretty impressive. How did you get your start in this?
So my dad was a truck driver, uh,
Oh wow.
and he owned his own truck, and he always had to do his own maintenance on his truck. And so from a really young age, I would help him fix things on his truck, and he taught me a lot of things about that. And then I got older, and I got into construction, and I started doing construction for a little bit. Didn't really see myself staying with it for my entire life, and I kind of wanted to change. So I went to something I knew. I went to school, and I got certified as a diesel tech, and then I kind of started working for somebody for a short amount of time, and then went into my own short after there, and it's been going well ever since. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I love to hear that. Love to, be able to build your own business and have it be successful. That's incredible and not easy. So, congrats for that success.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I know you do this as your main thing. I know you mentioned briefly that you had a little bit of a side hustle with some Dragon Ball Z merchandise.
I did,
Can you
yeah. So yeah, I used to. I guess you would call me a supplier. I
Sure.
had I had a larger supplier, and I got a lot of direct shipments from Japan. But when Super first came out, the card game,
hmm
uh, I spent a lot of time trying to collect boxes of that, and I collected a large amount of boxes and didn't intend on selling them. But then after I kept the product for a long time, didn't open any of it, and kind of got bored with it, I started selling it and realized that I could make a decent amount of money on it. And that's kind of what led into me getting back into collecting cards in general heavily.
Oh
Is
wow.
I realized that I could stockpile a lot of this stuff, and eventually, if I had to hold it, I could eventually make some money on it. And but then it kind of, dealing with the people that you sometimes have to deal with when you sell things, and I know you know how that goes. Um,
Yeah.
it kind of burned me out, and I got more into just the collecting side, and really just didn't want to sell much anymore. Like I do on my Instagram, I sell stuff, every once in a while, but I never go crazy and just list things like crazy. I
For
don't have a
sure.
lot of eBay listings up. I usually only have two or three eBay listings at a time. Sometimes more, but very rarely. I don't. I'd rather spend the time with my family than worrying about trying to make a little extra money selling cards.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a lot of time usually for not the most profit, so that's
Hey.
super understandable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's interesting that you say you never open them because I have always wondered, you love Dragon Ball Z, and I've never seen a single super card on your post, I don't think. So
Yeah,
I'm glad yeah.
I don't know if I've ever posted one. Now that you say that,
Yeah, do you
but
do you
yeah,
have like any singles or
I do. Yeah, I do.
okay.
I most of them. So most of the ones I opened, because there's not a ton of value in Super. I mean, there are some cards that are very high value cards, but in general, I just collect them because I like the art. I think that they're really cool
Nice.
looking. You know, most things for me, because I don't really resell a lot of stuff. Um,
Hmm.
so most things for me, it's not necessarily about the value of it. It's about uh, you, for the collectability. For me, it's something like if it's something that I want to keep and something that I'm happy looking at for a long time, then I'm gonna buy it. You know,
Nice.
it's never been for me about buying something because I found it cheap and I know I can resell it for more. You know, most of the time when I sell things, I lose money on them. Uh, actually, I should say probably always when I sell things, I lose money on them. Um, but that's just to me. It's like I said, it's not about the money. I would
Yeah.
rather I would rather have things I like, and then if if I have something that someone else can appreciate and I can get it to them for a good deal, then that's what I'm gonna do. Whether or not I lose money on it, because that I know there's a lot of in this hobby. There's a lot of the money mark type people that if they're not making money on it, they don't want it, and it's.
Hmm.
So if it's not a Charizard, they're not gonna even be interested in looking at it. And it's but
Yeah.
that's I don't feel that way about it because I actually enjoy Pokemon. I enjoy collecting and um I have a lot of fun trying to track down things that I want, because there's some things like especially now with me trying to get more heavily into the autograph scene. Um
Hmm.
there is a lot of things that I'm wanting and things I'm looking for, and a lot of times they're not cheap. And so I'm trying my best to find things that make me happy in that space, things that I want to collect without having to without having to spend too much money to the point where I think that if I ever needed to resell it, I am just going to completely, lose my ass on it. But at the same time, I do want to find things that make me happy, and so I don't mind spending a little extra money on something that's going to make me happy, as opposed to spending less money on something that is less desirable to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, just I on the signature things, and speaking of that, I like for people who don't know, and you should go check out Code Card's Instagram if you haven't or don't know who he is or haven't checked him out. But the Akabane signatures, dude, oh my gosh, talk about a piece of history. Talk about invaluable. And I don't know if you want to talk about the price, but for the price you got them at, that is insane to me. That is like, that's ridiculous. That is, it's not a, I, we talked about the Nishida autos and how those are, upwards of 10, 15,000. But
Mm-hmm.
shoot, those Akabane autos were much cheaper and
Oh yeah,
very historical to me.
yeah, and to me, uh, I would rather have them than a lot of the other like a Sugimori. I mean, would be incredible. I mean, there's no
For sure.
denying that that is something that is on my want list. I do have one that's in my saves that I'm kind of going after, but that's kind of more of a long-term goal. I don't want to spend that much money on something just to look at it when I can see it every day on the internet. Um,
Hmm.
but to have these signatures in my collection, I mean, I just can't believe how lucky I got finding these, and I think I found them all at the right time. I found them. Not a lot of people in the signature space understand the value of them, I don't think, and how rare that they are.
Hmm.
I mean, because most all of his signings were early on at the Worlds tournaments, and I'm sure he's done others, but you just there's not a ton floating around, and I think a lot of the people that do collect them are
Hmm.
collectors, and they're not sellers. So to find something like that in the wild, and then yeah, I mean, I randomly it's funny. I was using a Google image search um,
Oh,
on
wow.
on the one that I had just had, the first one that I got that I posted, um, and that second one popped up, and I thought it was the link. I thought it was an ad for the one I bought already, um, And but then I noticed that the signature looked a little more solid. So I clicked on the link that was in the Google image search, and it sent me to the eBay listing, and the price was about 3 times what I had paid for the first one, the listing price. But I contacted the guy and I messaged him, and it was a lower grade than the one I had previously as well. So, but I messaged the guy and worked out a deal with him and got it for practically the same price I paid for the first one. So,
Wow,
uh, yeah, I mean,
that's incredible. Props to that
I
seller, honestly. Props to you for
yeah,
reaching out and making that deal. That's great.
yeah, it worked out really well for me. And then I mean, now it's kind of like at the point where I'm kind of on the hunt for more. I'd even like to find more of the exact same one. To be honest, I think
Yeah,
it's such a cool auto on a cool card. That I
yes.
mean, he has a wonderful signature. And it comes through really clean. And it's just yeah, it's a historic piece. From a historic person in the Pokemon space. So I I think I think that they're all very important pieces, and I would love to collect more of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Takumi Akabane was basically the creator of the card game. He, yeah, that's about all there is to it. He
Mm-hmm.
really helped spearhead the card game and getting it up and going. And yeah, so Cody's sitting on three Akabane autos at this point, I think, and that's insane to me. It's super historical. I love the Mitsuhira and the Ken Sugimori autos, but the guy who made the game, that's hard to beat, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, I think they're really undervalued, honestly. I think
Absolutely.
that a lot of people. It's just there's a lot of people in the space that other than seeing his name signed on a few energy cards, they don't really know who he is. And that once it's more known, which at this point in where we're at in Pokemon, I think that it's gonna be how do you say it? Um, I think that he's gonna be more well known among collectors once they start realizing how important he is. But I think that right now they're really undervalued, and if you are in the market for one, I think right now is the perfect time to try to buy one. Because I don't think they're going to go down, and I only think they go up from here.
Yeah,
And
I
the
think,
availability, I
yeah.
mean, they're not very available. I mean, there are some right now online that you could buy. Uh, I don't think they're the best signatures of his out there. Um,
Mhm.
but if you want one and you are in the market for one, there are some and they are available and they are priced decently well. So now would be a great time to buy.
Wow. Yeah, that I think you're hit the nail on the head with that one. I definitely think that people who are here to collect, they're gonna start to learn. Obviously you don't come into the hobby super knowledgeable, but it's definitely something that you see it over time. Like when those prototypes were spreading around, you come to know who it is, and that's been a few years, but eventually stuff like that will spread some more, and new people will learn. And I definitely agree. Definitely a strike while the iron's hot kind of thing, because once people know, I think you're definitely right. They're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you look at just like, I mean, Sugimori's even, is early on, Sugimori's weren't hard to come by because he signed at pretty much
Oh,
every
wow.
event. But he would only typically sign for the competitors. I think I'm not positive about that, um, but I think that's how it went. And so there was a lot of them on the market because a lot of people were reselling them early on, back before it kind of became like sort of, there's kind of a stigma about selling autographs, I think.
For sure.
And I get it. But for me, um, I'm excited when I see autographs on the market because it gives me an opportunity to get something that I wasn't able to get myself. Um, that I want, and they're not going to have as much like sentimental value to you if you didn't get it yourself.
Hmm.
But I do feel like having these things and the availability of these things is important. I'm not a big fan of when people are wiping names on cards that are personalized, and like I'll even buy a personalized card if it's personalized to somebody else. I don't care. That doesn't
Right.
matter to me, because I'm in it for the artist's signature. Just because I think they're cool, and but to wipe a name off a personalization just to make more money on a card, I'm not really for that. I don't think that's the best thing in the world to do. I think it kind of diminishes the experience you had with the artist, and I think that it's just you trying to make money off the artist's name, which I'm completely against. I don't mind someone trying to make money selling a cool card because I like to buy those cool cards. Um,
Right.
but I do think that there's better ways to go about it. And if something is personalized to you, and for whatever reason you need to sell it, if you're in a financial strain, and
Hmm.
it's something easy for you to sell that you're not super attached to, but you did have a good time at this event and you need the money. I'm all for you putting that thing up for sale and having someone that's going to love it buy it. But don't wipe a name off of it, and try to change the card to make it easier for you to sell. I think that's a little dirty.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, I definitely agree with the sentiment. Like, if you need to sell, you need to sell. Or if you want to sell, like, you technically did pay for it. Do what you want to do. But just, yeah, it's disrespectful to the artist. You're not supposed to. It's probably altering the card when you're wiping it off with whatever chemical you're wiping it off with. I
Hmm.
completely agree. Fine to sell, just leave it. Just leave it because not everybody has the time or, maybe the money and the time to go to these events. So I
Hmm.
definitely agree. It's a good way for people to get special pieces like you. Like you're not reselling buying them to resell. You don't have the time to go to like these signing events and you clearly very much care about these cards and these artists, but this is the way. That's the way you're going to get them.
Yeah, I mean it's the only way for me. For whatever reason, the Seattle area. I mean, we have the Emerald City Comic Con every year,
Hmm.
but we there's never any Pokemon related stuff there really. I mean, rarely. There's like a couple booths that sell stuff, but never any signings. And like most of the signing events just don't happen in this area. And having a business and having three kids,
Yeah.
it is very very hard for me to go to anything like that these days. And it's typically it's the last priority on my list. So
Hmm.
they don't typically happen for me, but I don't mind spending extra money um, to purchase something that was done at one of these events. And that's to me that's kind of where collecting and money and spending money on things that you want kind of go in my favor. Is that I do work hard, and I allot myself a certain amount of money every month that I can spend on cards, and I don't go over
Nice.
that. I try my very best to stick within a certain budget every month, so that I don't feel like I overspent or I put myself into a negative space for Pokemon cards, because that's never going to be an okay situation. I don't think anyone should go into debt to buy cardboard. I think that is a horrible idea. That's a horrible investment. Uh, and yeah, a lot of people, you may see some return on some of these things, and you may see some good money. I mean, people that bought some of these boxes early on, the Evolving Skies boxes and stuff like that, that had a
Hmm.
really good resale year on them this year. There's stuff like that does happen in this hobby, especially with a lot of the newer buyers in the hobby that aren't very knowledgeable, and will spend money on stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot, but there's also a lot of people taking advantage of the market, and I see a lot of people going into debt. I see a lot of people selling their collections, all the time. Like, hey, you'll see a post and it'll be like, entire collection for sale, or I'm tired of this hobby now, I'm gonna move on to something else. Here's this collection for sale, and I hate to see that. I want to see people strive in the community. People, collect things that they love and not have to go into debt to collect the things they love. And if I have to wait, however many months until I have the allotted amount saved up to buy a certain card, then I won't
Mm-hmm.
buy anything until I have the money to buy that card. Um, and I think that's how everyone should do it. And I understand that there is a lot of impulse buying in this hobby because you see something and you say, okay, well, this is like a one of one thing. No one else has this signature or this or that, and it's available
Mm-hmm.
now. And if I don't buy it, it's going to disappear and someone else is going to get it. And sometimes they do. Sometimes they go away, and sometimes you miss out on these opportunities for things you wanted. But it's much better than being in debt.
Yeah, I think, that is all great advice. And if you're a new collector, listen to that whole part again because it's super important. I mean, if you really want to stay in this hobby, that is the quickest way to get out of it or just lose interest is just overspending,
Mm-hmm.
overextending, and then you're just stuck with a bunch of cardboard at the end of the day. And it does have, sentimental value, but it's not gonna feel good when you feel some type of way about these cards and then you have to sell them just to make ends meet. But is there anything else? I mean, that's already incredible advice to me for a new collector. Is there anything else you'd add to that just to say like for a new
Hmm.
collector, someone who's just stepping into the hobby?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of advice. I think something that kind of goes hand in hand with that is not to get not to get too invested in what you're buying emotionally. Because I think that a
Sure.
lot of people, especially like for a while, the hype with the alt art Umbreon, that was just I mean, the price is still ridiculous, but for a while there, I mean, the
Yeah,
price was unbelievable, and I saw a couple black labels go up for sale, which are great. I mean, the card looks amazing, and with a black label slab, it looks even better.
absolutely.
And I don't deny that, but when I see a PSA 10 of a card going for like $1,200, and which already is just ridiculous for a card that's that heavily printed and has that high of a pop. I mean, the pop report on that card is it's up there with Charizard. I mean, it is so high.
It's
Um,
so crazy.
and then I see these black labels pop up, and someone's paying $10,000, $15,000 for this card that already shouldn't be a $1,200 card to begin with. And I think that a lot of that is emotional investment. People seeing other people posting black labels, and or just even a PSA 10 for a much cheaper example, like say $100 PSA 10 card, when you could buy the
Hmm.
card if you could buy the same card in a 9, maybe even a cleaner copy of the card than what the 10 is, for a quarter of the price. And I see people buying the PSA 10 as opposed to the 9 just because it's a 10. I mean, that's never a smart financial move in my opinion, because very few of those are going to maintain their value. Most of them are probably going to lose their value after you buy them. And the more flooded the market gets with these cards, these high print. I mean, some of these people are just they're really going to lose a lot of money on these things, and I find that to be a bad investment. If you want to buy something like that, buy a clean raw copy, if you can, if it's available to you. If that's something that you really have to have, but buying a grade is never a smart move. There is cases where, I mean, for a long time I was a PSA 10 collector, and that's pretty much all I collected. Um,
Hmm.
but I never overpaid for them. If it was a card I wanted and a PSA 10 was a $500 card, I would pay $100 for the raw copy and just grade it until it got a 10. Um, and it may or may not work for some people to do it that way. And
Right.
for some people that have the means, I mean, look, if you have the money and money's not an object and you want a card, then by all means spend the money on the card. Um, but I do think that being smart and really stopping yourself from impulse buying things is kind of important in this hobby. And a lot of that goes with, just if you have to. One of the things I was doing for a while that I caught myself doing, and I deleted the app and everything, but Whatnot, I
That's
was on
funny.
there, and I only followed a couple of people on there and their
Hmm.
shows, and I like to attend a lot of them. And then I would find myself buying things that I already had, or things that um, I was overpaying on because other people were bidding on them when I could have got it cheaper elsewhere. Um, and then putting two and two together, it took me a while. I mean, for a while I was actually doing that, and I definitely overspent on several things, and realized that it was kind of going the wrong path into being a responsible collector. And I just deleted the app, got away from it, stayed away from those kind of auctions, um, stayed away from anything where a person is um, emotionally sending you responses while selling you things. I don't think that's ever like necessarily a good idea to have
Yeah.
people hyping something up in front of you while you're buying it, because I mean, at the end of the day, whatnot sellers are trying to make money. That's the point of whatnot. They're not there to give you a deal, they're there to make money. And no one's going to be on there if they're buying things and not selling it for more than what they paid for it. So they're gonna hype things up, and they're gonna have. I know that there's a lot of scummy behavior on there. There's people that pay their friends or have their friends come into their chats and like blow cards up while they're hyping
Yeah.
them up. So these uneducated buyers will go in and run these things to the moon and then feel satisfied with their purchase, not realizing that they paid $500 for a $100 card. Um, and so I got myself out of that space because it was just a really negative space. I didn't see any positive coming out of it, and
Hmm.
I made some good friends there. I really did. I made friends that I talk to still today. That influenced me in the hobby, and even some sellers. Windfall Cards is one. He's a great guy,
Oh yeah.
Josh, and he's a great seller, and he doesn't rip people off. And
Hmm.
he's one of the sellers that really like he really puts effort into making sure people get nice, clean cards and don't overpay for them. He gives you a market
Hmm.
value of the card, um, and obviously there is going to be people sometimes that are going to want the same card, and when they do, they will fight for it, and the prices will go up, and that's just kind of how
Hmm.
it goes. But he's one of the sellers that I think I kind of feel bad for him sometimes because he gets looped into that whole whatnot seller category. And there's quite a few of those guys that are just really good guys, that get looped into that category of a whatnot seller when they're a lot more than that. Um, and a lot of these sellers on there that are obvious resellers, that are people that aren't even invested in the hobby, and are only there to make money. I mean, they're always obvious. You can spot them from a mile away. Um,
Yeah.
those guys are the ones that give everyone else a bad name and kind of make the whole app look bad. But they're also the reason that I stay away from it today. I feel like it's the whole environment's just a negative environment, and not a lot of positive comes out of it. And so it's
Yeah.
for me, I think I find better ways to buy and sell things, and I'm more comfortable doing it in a less scummy way. So I couldn't find myself being associated with that anymore at this point. Um it's ran by people who I disagree with,
Hmm.
and they allow a lot of really shady stuff to go on to people that sell a lot of stuff for them. Um, and I will never be okay with that. I will never be okay with seeing someone, especially new buyers, and I see so many young, just like first time getting back into the hobby people that they they get trapped into this whatnot loop, and they end up, the same thing we were talking about earlier with these collections that then they have to resell to pay their bills, and they lose money on it, and then they all of a sudden now they hate Pokemon. They want nothing to do with it
Hmm.
when it's supposed to be a fun thing. This is supposed to be fun for us. It's supposed to be, you know, give us that nostalgic feel and let us relive our childhood a little bit, which is really great when you can relive your childhood while you have money, because then you can get
Yeah.
you can get all the stuff that you didn't have when you were a kid. So
Absolutely.
yeah, which is really cool. But yeah, I just I don't like to see people get stuck in that loop. I do think that there's a big negative downside to the Pokemon community and to the whole buying and selling part of it, because things go in trends, and you know cards are pushed by influencers to make the prices go up, and there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
shady things happening. And people, these younger guys, and even guys that have been collecting for, I mean, I get influenced sometimes. I see something, I'm like, wow, I don't have that. I want that too. But then I look, I do a little bit of research on the card and realize that, hey, just 2 months ago, this card was selling for $20. Why is it selling for 120 now? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then you wait a little bit and the card goes back down and you can buy that card for a reasonable price. Um, but, the market manipulation and everything like that, it's something that everyone needs to be wary of, and something that everyone needs to do their research on before buying high end or expensive cards, because a lot of times they're not high end or expensive cards.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's one of those cycles that people get trapped in, that I see over and over again. Like what the tag team cards just recently. Um, Man,
Oh my gosh.
those were practically throwaways. I mean, they were, the tag team cards were $5 cards, all day. You could find them everywhere. I mean, there was a couple that had a little higher value, um,
Right.
but I mean, a box, the tag team All Stars GX box or whatever. I mean, those were less than $100 for a box, and then all of a sudden you see these boxes, they're like $1,200 or whatever they're selling for now.
Oh
And
my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, like, how does that happen? It makes no sense to me. And it's typically, you see it a lot with these typically more heavily printed sets, which is even more concerning that
Yes.
some kind of market manipulation is happening. Um, and my guess would be that there's some of these influencers or these people in the hobby that are in it for the money, that they dumped a ton of money on the stock of these things when they came out. They realized that they were too heavily printed and they were going to be hard to resell and make money on. So then other influencers or themselves, they would hype up the market on these certain things to the point where, you could tell that it was something scummy going on, because there's no reason to just randomly start hyping up a card on the market that's been there for 10 years. Um, and now they can dump all their boxes and they can dump all their stock they have and make money on it. And uh, people fall for it, and people fall for it, and people buy that stuff. And like I said, if you have the money to do it and it's not going to financially hurt you, and you feel comfortable spending money on things like that, and in my opinion, wasting your money, then
Yeah.
by all means go for it. But to the young collectors and the newer collectors, or the people that are not, like, into the reselling thing and are here just to have cards that they want, that they think are cool, don't fall into the trap of buying these cards that are getting hyped up. Something that's popular on the current market, that has been around for 10 years and it was never popular before, right now, don't fall for the trick and go into buying it just because it's popular. Wait till the price goes back down to where it should be, and then buy it. Even if you have to wait a year, just don't impulse buy these things. Stay off eBay. Don't be scrolling eBay sold listings and all that stuff to see, wow, this card is like worth a ton of money now, because that means nothing. There's a lot of market manipulation going on eBay as well, where sellers will buy their own cards for high value because they have several copies of that card and they think that now the other cards are going to sell for that much. And man, it happens so often. I think a lot of so Pokemon became, it did. I'll give Logan Paul and all that a lot of credit,
For sure.
because what he did is he brought more eyes back and people back into a hobby that a lot of people have left and had kind of died
Hmm.
out a little bit. I mean, it was kind of on the downhill slide as far as collectors go. I think more tournament play had kind of picked up a little more recently before that, but collectors, the market was down for collectors.
Hmm.
I mean, as you can see, if you go look back on sold listings from like 2018, for things, I mean, everything was going pretty cheap at the time. And then he brought people into the hobby, but he brought a lot of people that I wouldn't mind not being in the hobby in it as well. Um,
Yeah.
and he did bring along some negative influence along with that, and it's not his fault. Um, he clearly is someone that I think actually likes Pokemon. I don't think he got into it um, for the spotlight of it or to bring attention to cards that he has. Even though I'm sure he's made a lot of money off of Pokemon,
Yeah.
like no doubt about it. I do think that he is actually a Pokemon fan. I do think he grew up with Pokemon, and I do think that um, he had good intentions. Um, but it started the whatnot boom, and it brought a lot of scammers and a lot of negativity into the hobby, and that kind of sucks. I don't I hated seeing that because I got back into collecting in probably 2014 or 15 is when I
Oh,
started
wow.
collecting again,
Hmm.
and I had been out of it since. So I didn't collect anything after 2000. 2000 I quit collecting. I kept everything I had. I never sold anything. But 2014-ish, somewhere around there, I got back into it. Ironically, through eBay. I was scrolling through eBay, and I don't even remember what it was I was looking for, but it was not anything trading card related. And someone had an Aquapolis, a full set of Aquapolis, um, like a binder, all near mint cards, uh,
Wow.
set on there, and the I want to say it had several extras in it as well. It had like a lot of doubles of the hollows, um, but it had a buy it now price of like $116,
Oh
and
my gosh.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it had a like it had a make offer thing or whatever, and so I made an offer on it, got it for $100, and I put those away, and they kind of sat for a long time, and then I didn't really know what to do with them. I wasn't familiar with the set, um, and right before the pandemic happened, I sold them, which I should have held on to them a little longer. But I didn't really know what to do with them, and I didn't really collect them at the time. They were
Right.
not really a set that I was obsessed with. Um, but I got the I want to say I sold it for around $500, which was someone else got a great deal
Shoot.
there too. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm but it was the first time I had ever made money on Pokemon ever. Um, and I was shocked that anyone would pay that much money for those cards. And so I started like looking into other things and realizing, okay, this might be coming back. When I bought that binder, uh, I started scrolling eBay and other sell sites, um, and just checking out prices of things. And I was like, some of this stuff seems like it's like really high. I mean, at the time, I think like a base set booster box was like $1,400, and which I didn't buy any, of course, because who would have known?
Right.
At
Yeah.
the time, I was like, oh, that's a ripoff. Like, who would pay $1,400 for this? Um,
Right.
and boy, what a mistake that was. But um, yeah, I started seeing all this stuff and I was like, wow, this stuff has like went up a ton in price. And so like maybe it might be good to, start collecting some of this and hold on to it. And I think that's kind of where I got into it again. I started collecting just a little at a time. I got really into Diamond and Pearl for a while there.
Ooh,
Um,
nice.
and yeah, I thought the arts were just beautiful on those sets. And so I bought a ton of that. And at the time, I was pretty much just buying I was either buying PSA 10 copies of cards, which um, grading, I don't think grading was as prominent then as it is now.
Yeah.
Um, I don't there I so there wasn't as many on the market, but the ones that were on the market, I mean, they were dirt cheap. A PSA 10 Diamond and Pearl Hollow, they were going for 10, $15. Um,
Oh my gosh, that's
and oh
crazy.
yeah, and so I had bought up a lot of those back then, and those all eventually got sold because I for a while there I was gonna try to be I was gonna try to go in and be this reseller and make money off this and everything, and then I realized
Hmm. Hmm.
I didn't want to do that. It just kind of feels scummy when you do that, and for the people that can do it, more power to them. And I do understand that there's people that's their job. There's a lot of sellers. on Instagram and on whatnot and stuff that they don't work. Their job is to sell Pokemon. So if they don't have product and they don't sell stuff, they don't
Yeah.
pay for their mortgage and all these things. And luckily for me, it's just a hobby. And if I wanna if I want to sell something, I'll sell it. If I don't, then I don't sell it. And there's no pressure on me to sell things, which is
Hmm.
great. Um, but even though my wife pressures me sometimes to get rid of things because she thinks
Oh
I have
yeah,
way too much
yeah.
stuff, which she's right. I do. I have too much stuff. I have my Dragon Ball Z collection is I have entirely too much stuff. I have you've seen my display that I have in my display
I
area,
have,
but
I
um,
have.
I have two closets in my house that are full top to bottom of other stuff that I can't display because I don't have space for it. Um, and it literally just sits in a closet, and my wife absolutely hates it. But she supports me, and she supports
Yeah.
me being in this hobby, and she is all for me being happy, and if this makes me happy, then she doesn't mind it. But I can tell you right now that she would be more than happy if I decided to get rid of all of it. She would not complain. So,
Yeah, yeah, no. Two extra closets. Can't complain about that.
yeah, yeah. But
But
it's good. I'm building out a
yeah.
display. I'm building out our extra room in our house. We have turned it into like a theater type room where we've got a couple of like theater seats in there, and we've got a little TV display and all the video game systems set up and everything in there. And I
Oh, heck yeah.
plan I plan on turning the big wall in that room into an entire display eventually. That's my goal, but I have so much other stuff going on, other projects.
Yeah.
I'm always working on my wheelers. I'm a big off-road guy. Um,
Oh,
and
nice.
I'm always dumping money into those and breaking things on them and having to fix them. And so I spent a lot of my what should be fixing things in the house time, fixing things on my own vehicles. Um, but which is another thing that like my bedroom right now, we're in the process of I'm building my wife she wants bookshelves. She wants our entire room to be like full of books. She wants it to look kind of like a library. Um, because she's a big avid reader.
Nice.
And her birthday's coming up, so I told her that I would build out this entire room for her, and I would make it a big library for her so that she could be surrounded by her books, and which is only fair that she's allowed something like that considering all the space I take up in our house with
Yeah.
stupid stuff. Um, so that's one of the things I've been like kind of putting on the back burner that I need to get done. There's a lot of other little projects, but eventually I will have that display done, and when I do, it'll be a glorious day for me. So
Heck
I'll
yeah.
be pretty excited about that because right now I'm just kind of confined to my desk and my wall behind my desk. So
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. So you're not the most computer literate as you said, but in terms of tools and anything that has to do with building something, you got no problems, huh? Woodworking,
yeah, yeah.
trucks, cars.
Yeah, I was a carpenter for 7 years before I got into the diesel hobby. And then yeah, it kind of diesel kind of became my thing. And so I'm relatively handy with a little bit of everything, I think,
Hmm.
except computers. I mean, if you try to have me do something on a computer, I'm one of those guys that types with one finger. And
Yeah, me
so
too, honestly.
yeah. So it's not my forte, but yeah, as far as tools and building things go, yeah, I'm okay. I can work my way around things, and if I don't know how to do it, YouTube, man, YouTube has instructionals for I use it at work sometimes. You know,
Oh,
there'll be
wow.
yeah, there'll be like newer model trucks that come out because uh, like some of these new trucks they have so much technology on them. There's wires just
Mm,
going everywhere on these things, and
right.
sometimes I mean to help locate something you go on YouTube and you look up, 2023 Kenworth, where is this located? And someone will give you a step-by-step instruction on how to get it out of there. And I mean, it, it's something that, as long as you have the proper tools for it, pretty much anybody can do it. I mean, there are things about mechanics that are, you know, time kind of makes you better at everything. Putting the
Hmm.
time into doing things. But there, if you have a good internet connection, man, and YouTube, you can pretty much do anything at home that you could do anywhere else, as long as you are semi-literate with using your hands. I mean, and so
Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, I'd say I'm relatively handy. Um, but like I said, pretty much anybody can be, with a little bit of effort and a little bit of searching and kind of just, a little bit of online research. You can pretty much figure out how to do anything these days, which is great. I love the
yeah,
fact that you can go on to YouTube, or you can go on, Google or whatever, and you can find how to do things, whatever it may be.
yeah, absolutely. You gotta love YouTube. I would have never thought of that for being a mechanic, but shoot, that's pretty crazy. That's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
nice.
yeah. I mean, early on, like early on, before I was super familiar with
Uh-huh.
everything I was doing, I I had worked for UPS, working on trucks at UPS, and they, you know, 90% of the UPS mechanics that are working on things are sitting on YouTube all day trying to figure out how to fix things on these trucks. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I mean, it's just, it's pretty crazy, but it is how it is, and it sorry, we got a truck going by. I don't know if you can hear that or not.
No.
Um, but yeah, it's amazing what you can find on the internet.
Yeah, that's an awesome resource. But yeah, so you stopped collecting in the 2000s, and I know you love Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon.
Hmm.
So you clearly grew up in the 90s, I'm guessing. What is your anime Mount Rushmore?
Ooh, okay. Well, Dragon Ball Z is always going
Hmm.
to be number one for me. And then Dragon Ball is number two. And Dragon Ball to me,
Wow.
Dragon Ball was not the best anime.
All
It
right.
was not. It was not. However, to me, on a sentimental level, it's
Hmm.
really high because it is the first anime I ever watched. And it is the first show that got me into anime. And so I will always keep it up really high at the top. Um, then, boy, that's tough. So I'd say Sailor Moon probably comes before
Nice.
Pokemon in terms of anime. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Pokemon to me, I was always more into the cards and the games than the show. Um,
yeah,
but I did love the show as well, but I don't think I'd put it in my top five. Um, but it definitely is in my top 10, no doubt.
yeah, yeah.
Let's see. Now, not necessarily an older one. I guess it is a little older. I'm not really sure when it came out. I saw it when I was a little older though. But Fist of the North Star um,
Oh shoot.
is
Yeah, I haven't.
probably my number four.
Okay.
That I highly enjoy that show. I still rewatch it now. And then uh, Naruto would be next. And
Nice.
it's kind of a toss up between those two as to which two would be four and five. Because
Hmm.
I equally love those. Uh, and Naruto to me is a better show. It is definitely a better show. It has better writing. Um, but there's so many filler episodes that
Mm.
if
Yes.
you're watching it on an episode by episode basis and you're watching each one as they happen, you can get burned out really quick on it.
For sure.
If you watch it in terms of like you sit and watch 15 episodes in a row, then it's almost impossible to get burned out on it because it's so great. Um,
Yeah.
but if you are just watching it, you'll realize, on episode by, because me and my son, we recently, well, not recently, it was a couple years ago now, but we sat and I made him watch the whole show with me because he had gotten
Nice.
into it. he had gotten into it, and because his friends, it was popular at the time, and his friends were kind of watching it, and he wanted to watch it. And I was like, I'll watch it with you, So we ended up watching the whole show, which is a lot. Um,
Yeah,
and while rewatching it, I realized how many filler episodes there really are, and that I think kind of takes away from it a little bit. Otherwise, I think it would possibly be number one on my list, had it not had so many filler episodes.
I'd have to agree. The filler just takes away from this actual story so much. Like
It does.
the story is great. Like when you're actually just watching the story through, incredible. But
Yep.
my goodness, the filler is just like, wow, I'm really watching something for 6 episodes that has no effect on anything.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
You get 6 episodes of running through the woods and eating ramen, and
yep,
then something substantial to the story happens in the next episode, and it's just I wish they didn't do that. I understand why they did. I mean, I'm sure in Japan specifically, it had a huge market, and the more
hmm,
episodes they made, the more money they made. So I get the filler, and a
right,
lot of a lot of animes do that. I mean, look at Pokemon. Throughout the years, there's a ton of filler episodes, but they always kind of have Pokemon always kind of had a point that the episode would get to, whether it
yeah,
be a battle or whatever. But the as far as like actual filler, man, Naruto just has so much filler, and that's the only thing. I
absolutely.
mean, literally the only thing that took it away from, you know, being my number one show maybe ever is the filler episodes.
Man, I'm with you 100%. But
Hmm.
I guess one last question before I think I'll probably call it. I know you're a busy guy and you're at work, so I don't want to keep you too long.
Yeah, sounds good.
But
This has been fun though.
yeah, this is awesome. Definitely have to do it again with you and got more other people on the way. Excited to, kind of just show people who they're talking to on Instagram and
Yeah,
stuff
man,
like
I
that.
I love that. Next time I'll get a webcam so I can show my face.
Oh yeah, perfect. Show the world your
Yeah,
face. We gotta see it.
yeah. I got a I got a pretty nice mustache like you, so
Oh my
people
gosh, yeah, we're really
people
missing
people
out now.
people should see it. Yeah.
Nice. But you're obviously getting one of you said your New Year's resolutions this year was besides spending more time with your family as much as you can was collect more like signature and art pieces. So,
Yes.
artist and signature combo. What is your one artist and the card you would want signed by them? What is your combo if you could have any?
Oh man, wow.
It's a
Um,
hard one. You might need a second to think.
that really is. So the JR Rally Celebi, which I have signed by Harada, um, is probably would be my answer to that question. However, I think the Celebi on that one is rushed, which unfortunately a lot of her autos are because her lines get so ridiculously big and everybody wants the sketch on them now,
Right.
so they do kind of have a little bit of a rush feel every once in a while. If I could have that with a cleaner Celebi, I think that would probably be it. Because that card to me is one of the coolest cards ever, and that's my favorite artist. Um, so that would be up there. I definitely have others. Um, let's see. I think I think a Kazuki signed card would be really cool. However, I don't think she signs anything. Um, at least that I've never seen her signatures. Um, but pretty much anything from her would be awesome. And let's see. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably. Oh, did I lose you? I think I might have lost connection with you. Oh, there it is. Okay,
I think I'm back.
there it is. Yep, I
All
got
right.
you. Um,
Perfect.
uh, yeah. So that and then the Entei from that set also signed and sketched is one I've been after a long time. I believe it was Swolepoke or someone that had one that I wanted to get. They had for sale on eBay, and I saw it, and I remember I put a save on it, and I was gonna go back the next day and buy it, and I went back the next day and I couldn't find the listing, and I don't know if they sold
Oh,
it, I don't know if they took it down, um,
yeah,
or what happened to it, but it was a really good one, and the sketch on it was really nice and really clean. Um, but those two cards, probably just a cleaner version of the one I have would be great. But
nice.
I'd really like to get that signed myself though.
For
Just
sure.
because that's one of the artists that her art to me has always been like when I think of Pokemon, I think of Harada art. Like that's just the first thing
Oh,
that comes
wow.
into my mind because it's the art that I always loved. Her art specifically to me was the most like Pokemon filling, like it felt like Pokemon when I looked at it. Now,
For sure.
a lot of people obviously probably wouldn't say that, wouldn't go that route right off the bat. Um, but to
Yeah,
me, that's what always attracted me was her art, and I knew it was hers right away. Every card that I saw that had her art or any kind of illustration in a book or anything, I knew instantly it was hers. And it was just always drawn to them. And there's so many phenomenal artists in the Pokemon space
absolutely.
that I mean Nishida's art is unreal. But yeah, I mean I think as far as like a lot of the um, as far as like a lot of the uh, sorry, my wife just texted me. As far as a lot of the other artists go, there's several signatures that I really want, and several cards that I
Hmm.
know that I want to have signatures on. Um, and but Harada is my favorite. I love her signature style. I love um, just the way her signatures look, and I even her signatures without the sketches, I think a lot of times look better than the ones with the sketches because, like I said, the sketches sometimes are kind of rushed because of
For sure.
the event settings. Uh, uh, so they to me um, are probably always going to be in my top. So any kind of Harada signature, just to make a long story short, or to make a
Yeah,
short
that's
story long.
no, that's awesome. Yeah, I definitely get what you're saying with the embodiment of Pokemon and stuff. I think everyone has, an artist that they look at and they're like, "Oh, this is Pokemon to me." And
Mm-hmm.
so that's awesome because, I never would have guessed that. So, not what I was
Yeah,
expecting.
right on.
But dude, yeah, I think my internet is really struggling for some reason, but
Well,
so I'm
I
glad that was the last question.
Yeah, mine's not good here either. We've been having some really bad windstorms here in the Seattle area, so yeah,
Oh, gotcha.
mine's not doing great here either.
Yeah, well, I gotta say, thank you, Cody, for taking time out of your day. I know you're busy, and like I said, I definitely want to do this again with you, and definitely have other people on the way.
Yeah, man.
For anyone watching, I appreciate watching. Go follow Codecardjitsu. He shares just amazing cards. That's all there is to it, from Dragon Ball to Pokemon. No misses.
Hey, man, thanks a lot. I
Thanks for
really
coming on,
appreciate
man.
it. Yeah, this was really fun. I really appreciate it, man. It's great
Awesome.
getting to actually talk to you. So
Yeah, dude, I can't believe this is the first time. We've been
yeah,
talking for
I
like
know.
over a year.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, this has been
Yeah.
really nice, man. I appreciate you doing this and having me on, man. This is really cool.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate you taking time out of your day, man. Hope you have a great rest of the day.
Yeah,
Peace
you
out.
too, man. All right, peace.